last session. That was a bit of a long day of streaming. I think it was almost like 8 hours, 7 hours of streaming to get some of this and explain some of these things. So just gonna check if we're live. Oh yeah, good. We are live on the usual channels: YouTube, Twitch, X, and I guess Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and LinkedIn. So hopefully you can watch from any of those, and or you're watching maybe a recorded version of this. Anyway, last time we got to finishing the testing for both types of slices in our application. So just for those that are new, our application is this this one here that's described about that describes the conference software that we're using as an example. So open spaces type of conference where people vote for the topics they want to talk about and have presentations on. This is an event model that shows the sequence of screens. So lots of people are familiar with mockups for screens as to what they're supposed to show. Event modeling takes us a little bit further by incorporating the information flow through the system that's actually stored beneath. It's not as detailed as showing you schemas of databases, not as detailed as UML, where you might see some class diagrams, etc. But we do want to draw a line in the sand as to what the state of the system is, and we mark those down as events, which is why this is called event modeling. Such as, setting a name simply stores that you set the name to your conference here at this time, and that was the name. And then everything else we build kind of builds off of these ideas that an event has occurred, and it's now on disk somewhere, or maybe in memory, but usually it's on disk. And in this implementation, we are doing that. So this hopefully makes sense, and we are using this full stack way of developing through vertical slices. So we're not separating things per se as traditional components. We usually have a lot more models or abstractions than a regular system, because as the source of truth, we use the information that enters the system. And that is all that we have to resolve any kind of difference of opinion, etc. So if I'm working on one screen that uses the name of a room, I have to use the same event as someone else that's showing this in a different screen. So making a lot of these state views or projections or read models or whatever you want to call them, they're basically different filters to look at that. And in our implementation, it's a map reduce of these events that get stored here along the way. And of course, we track what we're doing. The last sessions, we were looking at how to do automation. An example here that we did was generating an ID for our conference, which will then be used as a QR code for attendees to scan and use. But we wanted this to be the guinea pig for testing out how some automation happens in the system. And so when someone actually creates the conference after setting the dates and the rooms and all of that, we can create that. Of course, that does store this. For reference, we did add a layer showing the actual code that is implementing each of these pieces. So if someone that's a developer wants to look and see how this works, that's fine. They can look at that here. And I guess we should probably turn those off to explain this. So shapes, where do we have our shapes? View shapes. And oh, by the way, yeah, if you want to ask any questions about this, we have a Discord server that has a live stream channel. Any chatter that you have on there will show up here. But where I'm using Restream, so if you reply in Twitch or any of these other ones like YouTube, comments and chats, they'll get repeated through Restream. So let's see, layers. Okay, so we want to look at layers, and let's get rid of these shapes. So where's our layers? I should probably update my cursor IDE, but that's for another time. Oh, there it is. Okay. So if we look at the layers, we can turn off the code so that we can see just the information flow and what we spent a long time on. So obviously this is a walkthrough of what's supposed to happen, and it's really the happy path going through the system to really capture the intent of everything. Some things are not finished, like here we have these screens that we have to still add. Some we modeled already as to what type of interactions we want, and that'll be fun to stream making those ones. And this is kind of taking a longer time to implement because I'm taking the time to explain everything along the way. So next thing that we really spent a long time on is specifying, like, okay, the happy path is easy to see as to what happens, but in reality there may be more things that can happen in these things. So for example, how can the state view, and one of the things we talked about in the automations, these processors, they all use a green box, sort of like a screen uses a green box, but a green box can also be used as a to-do list for some automation, such as, do I need to generate an ID? If yes, then I'll do that. And then when the ID is generated, I'll mark that as done or fill in a blank or something like that. But there's a convention that the gear looks at to see if something's there to be done. Once it's done, it won't pick it up again because that value is filled, whereas before it was blank, as we have here. Then it's filled, so this thing will not pick up that item here. And if someone's curious, again, how that works, if it's a developer that comes in, you can see that this is looking for conf ID not equaling blank. So basically, if it's filled, it doesn't do anything. However, if it's not, it falls to this and generates the unique ID. And you know, here we can see what it actually does to do that. And then it gets stored and so on. So, oops, code, let's get rid of that, So that's how that worked. But like I was saying, some of the other things, sorry for the quick review. I mean, it was 7 hours of work and or streaming to kind of explain this. We played around a lot with AI for generating code straight out of this. And we had the implementation already for this. I believe it was this. And we tried to just take the picture of this and let AI generate the test cases. So our test cases were quite easy to read. We have our own test runner that we built, which is pretty, could be even shorter. I just had a lot of these extra console logs in here just because I was debugging some things, but I think in the end, I think it's good to maybe get rid of some of these, put some of these operations into helper methods and then, or functions, and then in those functions turn the console logs off or on instead of messing around with the flow of this. So you know, something like this where you actually, you know, this is what we'll see, that's fine, but this extra stuff, I really want to push that to a different place. So, but that's not sure if we'll bother with that today yet. I'll probably do that another day. I just want something more concise to read in terms of the flow of this, of how this works. And one of the interesting things about how it works, and you can see that it's not just doing a for each for those timelines there. We are doing a reduce, because the way that our testing works in our given when-thens in event sourcing is we have, you know, if we want to test this, there's no prior events. These arrows are timelines. So there's no prior events up here. And if we try to provide something that's not expected, it get an error. Then on the timeline, we do have some events. And we do have the last relevant event is unique ID requested. We skip an unrelated event. And if we have a provision of an ID, well, that succeeds, and the success is marked by putting this extra event on, and so on. And this repeats. And so for this particular test here, we would have all of these events as the precondition, and we'd reduce that in terms of the implementation of this. And then if, you know, when it's successful, we provide another ID, we have that. If we try to provide another ID after that, again, we don't, the last thing that we have for the relevant events for this operation, the unique ID requested, is missing. And so therefore we get an exception. So when we go through this list of place markers or checkpoints along the timeline. Every time that the testing framework sees one of these, it knows it has to test this command. And so in code, that's what's iterating through that list that I just showed. But then the actual test is pretty easy to write. So we have these timelines with checkpoints along the way. So this is one checkpoint, this is another checkpoint, this is another checkpoint, etc. So the first checkpoint is, well, there's an exception that we expect. The command is to add this ID, and the test function here is basically asserting that yeah, this should actually throw something because it doesn't have the proper preconditions, and it should throw that. So and then, of course, if it doesn't throw anything, that's a problem with this test. So the assert will catch that. If, however, it throws something, but it's not the expected exception, then that's also a problem with this test. And then these are the supporting checkpoints. So, for example, here we have an event that just places something in the history, and then there's another event that places another event in the history. So both of these don't have commands next to them. They're just setting up the scenario. And when we do hit something that has a command, for example, here we have this provision, we are testing that this is the expected event out of that command. And here's the test that does the asserts on it. And all of that wrangling up what the previous items were along the way here is done by that testing framework that I showed you, and it's passed in as a parameter here as event history. And the current checkpoint is really a reference to this object in this array. And why that's used is obviously we are pulling things out of here in our test, such as the command that we want to test. And of course, here we could refactor something because we could have a giant set of a giant case statement that's testing each command if we want instead, and that way we could have something more more generic, such as you know, command handler, and then of course, because it's doing commands, well, we remove the last thing in history. And the reason that it has to remove the last thing in history is that we have a slightly different convention here. Over here, we're looking at these as preconditions, and we execute this and we assert that it's equaling this. But when we're doing the state views, we are building these up. So if we have this item here, my window was closed, but there's some construction outside that's quite loud. Some truck backing up. Anyway, so the difference here is that we have the events that are on the left-hand side of each checkpoint as they get built up. This is the history that's asserted here. So we're actually looking at the complete history, including the current checkpoint, to assert that this looks the way it is. Whereas here, we're looking at everything before as a setup, and just like this is a setup. But our assert is on what this returns, and it returns this. So we really have a n-1 of the events here, where we have n of the events here. And so this is why you'll notice that we have this little helper function called remove last of event history, and that's what we put in there because our assert is done on the current one, which is stored in the checkpoint here. And so that's the test that we have. And then we continue down through more supporting events. Again, there's no commands next to them, even though there could be, such as this generated event could have another one of these, but there's no need to test that again. But we want to test that we have a problem with provide unique ID. Is this correct? I'm not even sure if this is correct now. Okay, unique ID generated event. Oh yeah, so the last event before we hit our command here is that we already generated an event. So again, just like the top exception here, we do the same test. It's not really the same test because this one here is testing where, you know, this actually should be renamed. It's pretty, should throw in no events at all exist, right? But it is really, I don't know if this is, you know, maybe just saying a progress marker beforehand would be better. So just to explain what's going on, and it wouldn't have the test, the happy path test trying to generate an ID with no events at all in history. So something like that. And of course, the test framework takes these progress markers and spits them out as little information tidbits on our test runner output. Just to show you that quickly here, when we run this test, what I just added here is on this line down here, where it says trying to do that, and then we actually do the test. And of course, these turn to red X's when they fail. So if you're trying to do TDD or something, this fully supports that, of course. We don't really need test-driven development here because we kind of have the design done already. And so we definitely can practice test first, but the amount of refactoring is fairly small. I wouldn't even say that it's worth looking at. The scope is certainly restricted to each of these vertical slices, so an opportunity to do some helpful refactoring that's going to help the whole solution is really not done like this. So, I mean, you could. We just find that it's not the way we develop day-to-day features. Like once you get some helper functions, you keep reusing them across this methodology throughout your projects, and the TDD thing becomes kind of not something you really worry about. I mean, you're really just doing test after test first. Auto-generate your tests with AI. It doesn't really matter that much as long as you're pushing the information along as you said you would. So that's about it for that. So hopefully that makes sense. Where we got to then is finishing this testing framework, which is kind of neat. What we want to do is finish testing this this processor. So we have generated the IDs, but we don't have a slice on either side. So for example, we don't have this yet, and we already started it. So we didn't have this create request ID event in here. And I think we started to look at, oh no, that's not a related one. That's a unrelated format. I just took this to be a template for testing this. So request unique ID is basically just hitting this button. So you know, what will that look like? So we would have request unique. Just going to edit this timeline here. Or just request conf ID. That's good. And so, yeah, if we do that with nothing in between here, then of course we say no request. No, actually, yeah, that's fine. It should be fine. So if we request that, that's okay. So I think we have this unique, yeah, that guy. So we can generally just copy things from previous areas because we're reusing this event. And oops, that was all the way over here. Just put that here. So that's good. And then, of course, if we try to do this again, we can show that we have an error. Request already exists. So that's our error. It doesn't have to be that large. Just put that here. That's it here. And so I'm going to delete these. This is a pretty easy one because we don't really have many given when thens for this. And so, yeah, that's about it. I guess we want to show the idea that, you know, this is catching an error, but if we finally get something from a processor, well, I mean, I have the processors running asynchronously and where we can have them kicked off by a timer that's slow to show some concurrency issues. So I like to do some of these things in a slow fashion to show what would happen at scale. I think someone on the Discord was asking earlier, how can you do this at scale with just files? Well, we can explore that and see how far we can take our file only based approach. Yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention is that all of these actions that you see in the yellow stickies are actually just stored as files, as JSON files here. You can see them all in this event stream here, and they're all just, you can see they're JSON serialized, and that's it. Pretty simple, and that's what we want to do. We want to keep things simple. It's really hard to keep things simple as we explore our different solutions, and this is hopefully something that helps you keep things simple. So now we have a request. What is our event that we have here? Conf ID provided. Okay, so we can just copy this. And that's exactly what we want. The events and things that we have up here in the main workflow are the building blocks for our design. And so we do want to, you know, reuse things by doing exactly this, pasting them in. And as frameworks for event modeling come up, you should be able to change one of these here and it'll change everywhere, and then it'll do some analysis to see if you've got missing references and all that. So that is actually this working now. So we have that. And so, yeah, this request, I don't think we need any more, really. This is a pretty dead easy slice. And because we have 1, 2, 3, actually we only have 2 given when thens here, this would be a free slice because we don't really charge for things that are pretty trivial like this. That's a change that we've made. So this, you know, in total, you could say, okay, whenever you get over 3, that's when you start charging for a slice. So this one here, you know, has a lot more tests, as you can see. It's catching a lot of different things. So this is, you know, if we're building a project and charging fixed costs, this unique ID request creation for the request would be included as part of the cost of this work. So we generally just don't want to have simple things blow up our estimates. And when you're really just making a data pump or just a simple marker with not a lot of business logic, like very little, you don't want to be charging your clients for that. So that's, you know, this processor would really be costing us two slices we would be charging for, and this one here would be included, right? So let's finish this one and see how we can get from this screen to having this processor kicked off, and then actually finish up this. I think I only have about an hour today, but I'm hoping that we can just carry on through this and finish up what we can. So I'm going to move this event model to a split horizontally here, split right, and then I got to close that and remove the shapes here and scroll back like these. Scroll back to where we're working, and I like to have this as a reference. And this is nice because we use these event models as part of the, you know, if a client is doing agile stuff and they have stand-ups in the morning, or they have a planning session, we like to have the event model there so that we can look at, you know, which part of the solution we're talking about, etc. The other convention I added here, let me just close this so we have more space. The other convention that I did in this example project is as we go left to right on our event model, these slices here, you can see different steps being taken. Hey, Pilot Bob. Where you try to improve the test harness. It seems like you are trying to recreate Cucumber. Why not use Cucumber.js? Okay, first of all, I want to show how tiny. So the question is, BDD style testing is done in Cucumber, and there's a whole bunch of other. Fitness was another one. I worked on Storyteller or used Storyteller back in the day. So a lot of BDD frameworks are kind of talking about getting, I guess, a sentence, a human readable sentence to then have, some blanks filled in. So look up behavior driven development and their frameworks in Cucumber to show what I'm talking about. But the short answer is I really don't want to use any libraries here. I want this to be as, if you look up here, I'm only importing very few things, right? Like this UUID, and even then I was thinking, for this purpose, I would use a random number generator that's built into the framework, but whatever. I have to use Express because I need some sort of a web server type of thing. I need to use Mustache for the view engine. Because I did before write my own curly brace syntax for templates, but I don't want to overburden this with custom code. But the reason I am overburdening this with this custom code here is because I want it to be small and show that it's tiny. And first of all, these extra log statements will be taken out. I was just debugging, and so I want people to see just how simple a test harness is. And that's why I don't want any magic to be sitting there behind Cucumber and extra functionality out of Cucumber that I'm not going to want to use. Everything I want to test this is here. I have my own assert even, right? I didn't even do that. And so this works for now. And I think keeping things small and unencumbered by many third-party things makes it easier to learn, so that it's less. I hope that answers your question, Pilot Bob. So anyway, and of course I can do custom things such as make these progress markers in here. So when I run, this. It has this nice output. My wise owls tell me what I'm doing at this point. And I'm free to customize this quite easily just by dealing with the code that I'm familiar with. So yeah, write your own test harness. I think it's good. I think there's several benefits of writing your own test harness. I think keeping things simple is one of the benefits, is that, in order to have good code, you'll quickly see you don't want to be sprinkling too many features that you're going to have to maintain in there, which is good, keeps it focused. So I like that. Anyway, hopefully that answers it. I don't see you typing, Pilot Bob, but if you have a question or a comment to add to that. Oh, by the way, we track bugs here too. That's why this red thing's coming up here. So let me just close this. And so progress is that, and then communication is bugs or comments on the event model, which we can turn off and on. So anyway, and the code, of course, we showed that the code can be shown. And let's go back to what we're doing here. Yeah, so before I get distracted, what I wanted to say is that the way that this whole thing flows, if I was to just shrink some of these things here, you'll see the method to my madness is that this app.js structure follows the workflow that we follow in our, I don't have to have this as large here. So if we zoom out, our code will follow the workflow. So for example, we're generating conference IDs. Before that, we have this function to, why is that not? Oh, okay, I see. This is so there's another thing that I'm doing here, a small little convention where I make sure to have these URLs gathered and use them here, so that at the end when I'm running the app, I get a list of URLs listed at the bottom. I guess there might be an easier way to do that. I don't know if there's an app dot get my URLs. Maybe I could do that. I mean, now that I think about it, I just don't know what Express provides. So let's ask. In Express, can I query the URLs currently added? I don't think it's that. I don't think it understands what I meant. In Express, can I access the URLs I configured? With something like dot routes dot for each console log etc. Oh, it seems like there's a router stack. Very interesting. So I could get rid of some of this code that I didn't think app or Express provided. So all of this mumbo jumbo can be removed. So it already has that. Well, let's give it a go. So apply. Sure. And then let's see if it was lying to me or imagining things. So let's run the app. It seems to have worked. Configured routes. Okay, it's still listing them. I don't really need them, do I? I guess not. So list routes. Yeah, I don't need to list them here. And I don't need to post get stuff as well. Where is that? Route methods. Oh. I actually don't need. Oh, okay, URLs for each. So it's doing this. Okay, I see. So if I can I apply this again? Maybe I'll just do that, modify my code to use that instead. Okay, see what happens here. Okay, so the nice thing about cursor is that the green part of this patch that it's showing is already the current file. So if I run something, it'll run that version. And so I have, okay, so this is really good. So I have two generate conf IDs because one is a get and one's a post, which is what I want. Yeah. Yeah, so I could make, okay, so I'm gonna accept that, and I'm just gonna ignore, I don't see, I guess I could have the, is that right? Okay, so it's got the stack, it filters the route, maps the route. Okay, so maps that to just be the route. And then for each route, it does that. Okay, I guess it's dropping the method, which is okay. I could put a little question mark URL thing in there to show that it's post or a get, but I don't want to mess with that for now. I'm guessing I can just make this unique. Let's say unique. Do I have to reduce? Unique roots. Yeah, that looks a little convoluted, but probably. And I don't need that. Okay, so it does give me that, which means hopefully. Oh, good. It didn't. Okay, so that's good. I don't like the way this is outputting extra stuff here, so I added some more console logs, which I want to get rid of. But things do look like they're working. And so that's good. Now I can clean this up a bit more, which means, I don't know about this reducer. Like find route path, return AC. Okay, push the route, return AC. Okay, this is kind of like a one-liner. Don't want this to take up too much real estate. Can I do that? Yeah, okay. So this kind of is a long-winded way. I can just ask ChatGPT if there's a unique thing on here. I haven't done enough JavaScript to see if we have a helper function for unique. Probably some set, right? It must be a set. But that's good. Let me see if I can just get our okay, simplify this. Will it give me the answer? Oh, it's filter, route, and r find index, r index of route. Just looking at what it did already. That's interesting. I didn't know it had that filter had that thing, which is kind of like a reducer already. Well, I don't like it. I think I know reduce much better. And yeah. So route r. Okay. Yeah. Is this correct though? Route. Okay, routes do have a path. Interesting. Because this does work now, right? Just double check. Yeah, cool. Very cool. Pilot Bob is not with us anymore, so he will probably ping me later about this question. Okay, so what I was getting at, now that I have this route stack showing, I can get rid of some of this messy URL stuff, right? So, for example, here, I can just take this, copy it, paste it, get rid of that, and same with these other ones. Oh, okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of tests here. I can just fold them down, fold this down. I wish there was a... I probably want the helper function for a better name for this. Because when I shrink this down, I don't see what I'm testing. I'd rather have the name stick out right away. So, you know, I could say add to slices and then the name and then push the rest in there. And the helper function would do that. But I kind of want this nice usability to... Okay, so I have the tests. I guess the slice tests for this. And I think I want this further down. Run with expected error. I think that's part of our test framework. So I would want this whole thing here to be moved down to... Oh my, I'm gonna have to move it through all that. Okay, but anyway, this is our function that just wraps catching errors, which is nice. I'm wondering if putting this close brace on the last part of this, will this make it look better when I shrink it? Oh no. It's kind of better because it does have a little more context. If these shrinking things here just do that, this assert is a one-liner, so I don't even have to shrink that. It's pretty dumb. Just like this, remove last array. And this one is for our test runner as well. Okay, so all of these things are part of our test runner here, right? So that's running tests. I don't care what it's returning. And this here, of course, is our listener. So if run test, then we run the test. Otherwise, we do the thing. So okay, so that's pretty easy to understand. But the main point is that I want this to read top down. So this is our supporting stuff. A function called getEvents is, well, it's exactly that. And why is it not? Okay, the syntax is throwing it off. Oh, actually, it is a one-liner already. Two-liner. I can see there's a soft wrap here. But we can push events. We have processors. We have a notification for processors and all that. Then we have our first thing, which is our rooms URL. And again, we can chuck this. So, one of the things that we have is these rooms, this URLs collection. So we can get rid of URLs. That is something we don't need to have. You'll probably also have better places for things like this, where we don't have to have specific lets up here, and we can dynamically add something like I don't know, we could have an environment object. So anyway, lots of cleanup, but it's all infrastructure here. So let's keep going through this. So if we have this, and we get rid of that and put it in here. This is now redundant. And we know that we're taking care of rooms here, okay? And then, of course, in rooms, we have the room state view, and then we have all the tests for that state view, right? And then here we have the time slots. So all of the things as you saw in all the things that you saw in our diagram or of our design, as we go left and right through all of these different places in our workflow, such as naming and, you know, seeing the set name and then the name of the conference, and then we have things like set dates and days of open space. So all of these things will have kind of move from left to right in our workflow. And so for making things easy to follow, it's nice to also have that same convention here. As we move from top to bottom, you start to see that you're actually following the diagram. And so it's just easier to find stuff like this. Again, non-trivial applications will obviously be bigger, so you're going to have multiple files, not just one file for some of this stuff. And let's see, where do we get to next? Okay, so next thing here, we have another URL that we want to get rid of. So get rid of that and put that in. And get rid of the setup. So that's getting rid of some of these things, which is nice. Yeah, generate conf ID. So the get is very simple. I mean, I almost want to, if I have something as simple as this, I really, really don't want to have more than one line for it. And this doesn't have a state view. There's nothing to test, right? So this is another one of those where, well, actually, it might. I mean, if we have, let's say we get to this URL some way because it's in our history, but there is nothing set up for that conference. Getting a conference ID makes no sense if there's no rooms defined or anything else like that. So we may actually change this, but for now, this looks pretty empty, right? Okay. And of course, this one here also has that. It was trying to give me a hint here. Come on, AI. Yeah, it wants to do that. Oops. Tab. There we go. Right, so it's going to the same thing, but it's a post. So we can show that in this place we can do both, which is correct. The post is the one that's more interesting because that's the one that's actually going to request unique ID. And that's actually wrong. Okay, it's not going to request the ID. Oh, the post is. It's going to generate the, oh no, request unique ID. Sorry, it is going to do that. Okay, and then it does have a little try catch here. And then the redirect. So this is something that we tackled on this already, is that some of the post URLs we want to redirect with redirect to something. Let me see. I think last time YouTube was had problems, so I'm not sure if this is still having problems. If you have Yeah, if you have issues with the stream, let me know, because the last long stream that I had, it got cut into 3 pieces, I think. So I'm not actually sure if that was Restream or something else. All right, so hopefully you understand why I did this like this, and we can, okay, so we got to this part. This is the part where we're working on. I'm not sure if we want this. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing here. So this is the to-do list tests. So did we put the tests for the to-do list before the, oh yeah, so we put the tests before the implementation. So I think we want to kind of have them the other way. Since that's the convention, we have the implementation and all the tests for it are kind of after. So if I move all that here. So yeah, that's the non-trivial ones. There's a lot of tests in there. Then we have the actual processor. And then we have the generator for generating those. We have an error that we want as a constant. And then we have the tests for that. I wonder if putting this up on this line will make it easier to read. Yes. Okay, so we know that it's this slice. Because, yeah, okay, so that's all we need to do is just do this. And now we kind of know which set of tests we're dealing with. And same here. Right, so we know that this is the tests for the state view. Again, we could probably get some better conventions here. We are trying to really try and match up what's on the event model in terms of names to what's in the code. Yeah, so let's continue on with the implementation. So what do we want to do is we want to have, oh God, sometimes draw IO is kind of a pain. Let's close our window here, and let's keep scrolling over to where we're at. So that is room name, so adding rooms, adding to the schedule. Okay, here we have the create. So the other thing that I want to show is that when you're working on a slice and none of the other slices before it are done, you can put in fake events to simulate that. And that's kind of like your local runner that'll check your event history. Maybe you can have a couple of bash scripts there to help you clear out this event history to set up your working environment to be, you know, this is all old things that we have here. Let me just close them. I don't really want to open them. But yeah, all of these can be removed, and you can put in fake ones for the previous steps as if they've been done. So that's kind of like what replaces stubs and mocks and all sorts of other things and database scripts to get something aligned. It's very easy to just dump in whatever JSON version of a history in here that's tailor-made for you to work on a particular slice that you're dealing with. And of course, you could have that as part of the code that you're committing. And again, it's just going to be the supporting code. It's not what's going to be shipped. So you probably want to remove all that stuff. Not that it's going to have any security concerns unless your test data that you're making is using real people's information or accounts, then it's going to be a problem. but most likely those are just bash scripts that never will run. And all the bash scripts do is really manipulate the event stream. If your path happens to be the same as the production path, you obviously don't want to run a chance of executing those. So you should probably put safeguards in them to make sure that doesn't happen, or just don't ship them. Right? You can just filter those out and ship only what's in the specific files you want, but allow people to commit all the artifacts they want for developing how they want. So yeah, let's keep going across to where we're at. Okay, so we have the processor here, and then we're wanting to create this. So we already did this mustache view here. Let's move this over to here. Close this for now. Yeah, so this is just a simple simple to-do conf ID. Oh, that's the generated one. That's not the right one. So generate conf IDs. This is the one. This is, which has the navigation at the top. Again, nothing dynamic. We're not, highlighting things dynamically in the menu or anything like that. For now. Then, yeah, we just have this button submit. I mean, that's all it's doing. It's not even. It doesn't even need to send any particular information. On the other side, we have the generation of the ID. So let's follow this line. So right here, we're looking at this this UI. And then what we need to do is then actually generate this marker and then write it to disk. And I think that's already been done, if I remember correctly. So before the processor, before this read model to generate conference IDs, we do have this request function. So to do gen conf ID state view. And I'm not sure if that's correct. Yeah, this is the wrong one. I'm not sure why we're looking at these. It's not returning anything. And then over here we have the post request unique ID. And so this is the wrong implementation. So in this case, if we already requested one, we probably don't. So we want to have these tests. Let's just let the UI write it for us, right? So we can go slice tests, push slice name. That's good. And it will say that we have the happy path, which is correct. And then we don't have a event first. We want a command, don't want a state. And we want, okay, yeah, request unique ID. Command. Timestamp is there. Empty array should be returned when no events exist. No, the function should be, so the test is wrong. Just get rid of it and say that, what does it say? Request unique ID command should be added when requested. Yeah, result length 1, conf ID. Now, it's interesting. I don't think I want in this. So there was a question. Actually, we discussed in the podcast. Should commands return more than one event? And I say that 99% of the time, no, you should not. I don't want to make a hard rule to say that you should never have more than one event. But for this project, I will. And this is where we will show how you use processors to actually get the same effect as you would with that. Or how you would make, if you're feeling like you need to make 2 events, make make a third type of event that has both pieces of information, because that wraps it up as a transaction of this happening at once. And then you would have a processor that would look to a to-do list that listens to that particular type of event and does the job of splitting it up into its components. I think that's how we want to do things to keep the integrity of our system easy. So result, first of all, result should never be a list of these things. So the result should have the conf ID. I shouldn't really need to do that. I should just say assert. I should just assert result dot type, and then of course what did it do here? I didn't want that last assert to be changed a stupid timestamp. I do want to have this name as something else. Yeah, that's right. I think that's all it should do. And then of course here, it should do that, but it should check history. Yeah, something like that. Because here we want to make sure that we are basically looking for these generator or request things, and we want to throw here. That's perfect. Although I'm getting ahead of myself here, because it actually did the correct thing. But if I continue, so I have events undefined. So this event history will be nothing. So I have a couple of commands here now. I want to start to make a do I really want to centralize things? Yes and no. Let's just see how far this goes. The reason I'm asking for that is because I have this urge to make a command handler, but I'm seeing that I don't really need to make a command handler. I can just use functions, because each command handler is a function anyway. Might as well have them uniquely named. And do we need to centralize that? And I don't think we do yet. Anyway, I want that reason to jump out at us. So okay, so this should work, right? We should be able to do that. Just to short circuit this, I want to, at the end of this, I should get to be I need to do that, generate URL and QR code. But for now, the ID has been generated, so I should just go to this page for now after we do this, so we can see how things go. And the other thing I want to do before we continue is there's some console logs where we have a lot of this thing, looking at all of these. That's okay. I kind of want to make sure that we're not looking at too much console logs for especially the history. Where the heck did I put in a whole bunch of history? I hope it's not it might be in here, and I should get rid of it, because every time we do anything with events, like maybe the push event. Is there a const? Okay, good. I don't have anything in there that's spitting out any console logs. Processors is fine. That's fine. Yeah. So I think we have, or do we actually? I think I might have the state view for to-dos. I think might be. Well, somewhere it's yeah, this is probably spitting out too much, but I think there's an even worse one where it's spitting out all of the history somewhere, which I don't want, but whatever. Okay, let's keep going with this implementation. So okay, so this let's just let's do TDD for the people that are, let's humor the TDD folks. Do this one bit at a time, just to show that this is not incompatible with TDD, and my criticism of TDD is that it doesn't work with this. So tests. Okay, so where is it? Should be here. Okay, so we have a problem. Conf ID should be empty. Request unique conf ID should be empty. That's interesting. So that doesn't sound right. Assert conf ID should be empty. Okay, that is wrong. We're not asserting on that. We're just asserting that we have that result as the type. So we don't, it's getting thrown off by our to-do list. This is just getting the event. Let me just explain that. This is just getting the marker event for the request to start the processor. So our processor is here. Sorry for the small view. Oh, come on. Sometimes draw IO and its navigation can be. So the only thing that we want here at the end of this is a conf. Oh, that's the problem. Yeah, we didn't finish specifying this, but why is it getting thrown off? So my guess is that this thing actually is looking at, like Cursor AI is looking at the XML of this draw IO. And that's why I had that assert, which is pretty crazy. So, yeah. Unique request that already exists. Okay, that's provided. And so maybe we do one more control copy just to show that this actually spits out another request when we have this history, like this. But we also want to make sure that this works if we have, and I'll label these. Again, I'm going to make these a little bit generic, but make sure that this is a new one. And if we have that, but we also have this here, and we have some other event, that we don't get tripped up by the other event. This will show us that this still works in a mixed history, like where the history is mixed with other events in the stream. And the reason I'm doing this is because we're not working on aggregates that do the filtering at the infrastructure level. We're just looking at hey, can I look at all events? Sure. And this is where some of this stuff might actually not be something you would put into your specifications. You would assume that the only types of events that you would have here for the setup of these tests are only relevant events. In other words, we would not want to test for this, right? But because we're playing around, just to exercise some of this from the bottom up, we're going to put those in. Some other event, it will still work because it'll show that there is no unique ID requested as the last relevant one. And this filtering that we have, and I think we have it obviously in the implementation here for both of these things, like even the state view. State view is easier because it's just a pub sub. So here, yeah, you can see that we only listen to these. So obviously listening to anything else, it's just going to fall through and nothing's going to happen. But where we have where's our process? Where's the other one? Okay, so we have this. Right, we have this filter. So this filter here to say, hey, we're looking for only these. You know, we're going to have to bubble this up above the main functions, or provided us some sort of a memoization, or not memoization, but some other chaining of functions where we're going to have this filtering be done more at a platform infrastructure, whatever level, metadata level, to not have to have this. So I really want, you know, the simplest implementation for these. And having to do this is muddying the waters a bit. And it's also muddying the waters for people that are in business, because this is really a technical implementation leaking in here that we're filtering out for external or non-relevant events. But anyway, we're playing here for now, and so this probably won't. The other thing is that this should not hurt any subsequent work. Like, even if we find a way to work this into be something that's handled in a better way that allows us to have our command handlers cleaner, the old implementation shouldn't impact the new stuff. I mean, this won't hurt at all if the filtering is already done before we get this. Whether we remove this line of code or not really won't matter, honestly, at that point. So let's add these tests and see, you know, right now we have this, and so now we fixed it because it's making an assumption about something that we had in there. So if we run this again, we notice that we now have, I should be able to add another parameter to my little test runner to basically say, hey, I want this slice name to be the one that's executed. It'd be pretty interesting. I'm gonna try that in a bit. Make a little utility for that. Highly opinionated utility, not reusable outside of the structure, but it should give us tab completion for, you know, which slice we want to test. So that'll be a fish shell utility. So where do we have a little test here? Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. And remember, these are kind of doing things in order. So we're at the very beginning of our workflow. All these tests for the processor are already done, and we're at the beginning of the processor requesting this unique ID. And so here we are. So next is, well, let's make sure that these are legible. Right, so we have that. Now we could add some markers here, but let's see how it does without markers. The reason I have those progress markers is to add an ability to kind of comment what's going on in this timeline in our test scenario, which we did for the previous one, but I just want to fire through this. I only have like 15 minutes left, so I want to make sure we have this passing, and then we can just hook it up to the UI and test it out. So what's the next one? Next we have, actually we don't have an event, we have a exception. And we don't want that, we want this to say a request already exists. Seems to know what I need to do, a command, that function. Yeah, I should throw when already exists, result. No, this should be a expect. Do we have expect error? Checkpoint command. How do we do our? So I just use the expectation stuff. Run with expected. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So it returns the message, and run with expected error is what we wanted. So get rid of that. Run with expected error. Request unique ID, event history, and then checkpoint command. Correct. That's what it should do. Okay, so let's run it. It should fail. It passed. Did we have... It's just doing this. So something's up. Request unique ID, request unique... Oh, the event is undefined. Okay, so first of all... No, that's wrong. This is command. Sorry, yeah, this is checkpoint. Checkpoint. This is not unidentified. This is unique. That's what it should be. And the command should be the same time. And it should get stored as that. It should have that checkpoint. Dot event dot type. Result type should be the checkpoint event type. That's what it should be. Okay, so yeah. AI didn't know what to do there. That still works. I mean, it should break if we don't, if we just return nothing. And we run it, we should get things barfing. Yes, however, this one is passing, which is wrong. But then, yeah. Because we're not capturing what it's doing. So we should say, yeah, that's better. So now let's just make sure that we're failing to do our TDD. There we go. I mean, we're not doing it a step at a time, but 2 steps is good enough. So let's look at this now. First of all, let's fix this so we actually return. It's getting ahead of itself. Notice that it tried to look at history. That should fix one of them. Yes, but it didn't fix the second one, So requesting it should throw when request already exists. Should throw a request already exists but did not throw. So it's not throwing. So in other words, so find history, blah, blah, blah. So now we need to say filtered history. So we want raw history. Here we want, yes, that's what we want, history. Okay, so now that should work. So we're filtering for relevant stuff, although that's too soon. Okay, we're not at that test yet, so let's not do that. So we should have the last, we don't need this find. We should have the last one in here that's relevant. History length -1. I think that's what it is, right? Okay, so that should get us passing. Oh no, we're not throwing yet, right? But we need to throw. If it doesn't, if it equals that, throw error already exists. Okay. Oh, that's gonna throw because we have to, if length equals 0. Yeah, we forgot that guard clause there. So now we should ignore, a request already exists. If, okay, if length equals, this is bad logic. If length is greater than 0, and our test runner should be, oh, I know what we're not, that's the other thing we're doing. Whenever we do the command stuff here for testing, we need to, yeah, what do we do for the last one? So I think for our tests in the last guy here, we have event history, and I think our test runner is the one that filters out the relevant stuff, so we don't need to worry about that. Checkpoint test, we do that. Okay, no, so we do have to reduce the, we do have to have the event stream check remove last, right? So where do we remove last? Here, right? Here we remove last, checkpoint command, provide unique ID. And this one's actually an error here, right? So we have remove last. That's what we need there as well. So we did miss one. However, it did chuck things because, well, that's really odd. Anyway, we'll improve this. I think there's a couple of little edge cases here and there. So this event history, needs to be trimmed before doing anything to that. So this should also work the same way. Might have to jump on later since I'm running out of time. 5 minutes left. Result ID checkpoint event slice name request unique ID. Okay, so yeah, this is request unique ID, and it should remove last event history. Now, yeah, because checkpoint event, this should still work. However, we have that problem, so we introduced something there. And we got a problem here. Test fails at generic ADSC. Oh wait, that's just output for... So why? Okay, so this works now, but we did break this last one here. Test failed provide should throw when no request exists. So the last one's not throwing now. Let's look at that test. So it's this one here. Provide ID should throw when no request exists. So, run with expected error, remove last history, checkpoint mid. Okay, so we have an event where we have a generated and we're not throwing on that. So let's go to our implementation. So we filter down to whatever. If events equals 0, so we have nothing. Or the last one, unique ID request event. I'm hoping we're not doing the remove here. I don't think we are. Okay, good. Should throw no comment, but did not throw. So it's not throwing here. So it should definitely, so it's going this, or so this one. Unique ID requested, yeah. So it's got some problem here. Well, it should throw, but did not throw. That's interesting. Let's look at the data again of what we're passing in here. So it should have a generated event as the last one that it gets. So last event in the collection should be that. Oh. There's event history. So it doesn't need to remove last because, okay, we went through this last time. The reason it doesn't need to do that is because our current checkpoint, when we're checking errors, is not an event, right? Whenever we have an exception, it's not an event, so we don't need to remove last. Must be a better way to filter this, to make that, improve the test runner. And so that's another reason we're not using Cucumber, is this is highly opinionated for event sourcing, where you have a very specific way of passing the built-up history here. And if someone wants to try and coerce Cucumber to kind of make this easier, I'm all for it. Let me see some code. So, but anyway, so I think we got it to work. Let me just do that. Yeah, we have everything passing. Good. So now we have the basic functionality. We'll finish the tests in a bit. Let's just make sure that we can kick this off from the UI now. So we have, so we have this request unique ID with get events. Request unique ID has this, we already tested it. And then otherwise we return this, which is good. And so then we have, then we can just push this event to be on the stack. And that should be it. And so after posting that, we need to redirect, was it 300? Yeah, we want that, but then we want to do config. Yeah, I think that's what we want. So we just go to that screen. Let's give it a try. If we do that, and then we go to generate conf ID, and we click on create, we get an exception. So invalid status code. Oh, okay, we forgot the status code, I think. Let's go back here. Is there a status code that we add here? Redirect. I forget how this was in the other one. Okay, so we do a post, then we redirect to this conf IDs. I don't know if we have to do this. And then the conf IDs. Well, we have down here somewhere. Let's close our slice tests here. To do gen conf ID SV. And that would be to do conf IDs. This actually gets the to do conf IDs, gets events, to do gen ID and all that. Okay. So, the other thing that's happening, yes, we do have one more thing to get done here. After we do this post and we push this event, there is, I believe, in the pushing of events, this last bit here, that we notify the processors immediately if we have a 0, right? So sync time is 0, so we notify processors. But that's for that. We don't need to, we have, we also have a publish part, right? Notify processors, get events, push. Nope, we have to do that manually for now. So after we do that, we not only push the event, but then we update. Oh, do we? We don't need to update that because we're only looking at that. Okay, so we don't have any, sorry, I was thinking we have materialized views, but we don't. We're just, this should be good enough. Let's try that again. I think it was just whatever I was doing in there with trying to pass stuff in. Yeah, that's right. So it works. Okay. So notice that we created something that kind of works. Let's do that again, but with an empty stream, like nothing in there. So we'll just remove everything from the event stream. Then we'll run the application. We'll go to generate conf IDs. So we have this, and then we'll create the URL. So this is generate ID. It did it. You can look. That's looking for conf ID. Found a conf ID request, providing this. Created a unique So it's working. So yeah, we can test this with async as well. And all we need to do is just finish this implementation of all of that. So I'll commit all this, and I got to run, and we'll finish this another day. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Hopefully tonight. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, we just added some code here. So let's add everything. Git commit. Added requests for ID slice. And fixed some tests. I'm guessing. I forget what we did, but whatever. Let's push this. Let's go to our design. We changed our event model a bit. So git status, git add everything. Yeah, git commit, added specs for request ID slice. Oh yeah, I remember. I should have put that in the commit messages that we got rid of the stupid routing setup. We can just interrogate the app.routes or whatever it is, the route stack, and just get all our available URLs that way. So that removed code, which is great. I'm happiest when I'm able to delete code. So that's it for this short one. Believe it or not, we managed to do this under 2 hours. So anyway, I'll see you on the next one. If you have any questions, remember to go to eventmodeling.org. There you'll have all the links and then there's a resources page there which has the Discord link. So go to that, and don't forget about Martin's book. So get this if you want to know how to do everything that I've been doing today. It's explained very clearly there, and you can follow along, and he's also coming up with course work to support the book. So that's coming out soon.